Right, guys, and welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast with myself, CY, and Baker, FPL 343. How you doing this evening, mate?
Good evening, mate. Yeah, good.
Good? Relaxed?
Yeah,
Bit of an odd
I tell
week?
you, I am a lot more relaxed than I was at about 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, you kind of had my sort of flavour from last week going on. A bit,
I was kind of
little bit of that.
Yeah. I was in the car, and I was quite glad I was in the car if I'm away because I couldn't be ranting and raving as much. But yeah, I was in the car and listening to Talk Sport and thinking, please be okay, Kane and Emerson. Please be okay. Thinking about 35% own combined. This is it. This is going to be a good Sunday. Good Sunday. Oh, the snow.
Well,
So
that was it because
yeah,
I didn't even know it was a consideration until you messaged saying Tottenham off question mark. And I was like, I had no idea. I was like, what do
yeah.
you mean? No, I don't know. And then I just went straight to Twitter, saw the BBC Sport thing. I was like, oh shit, that's not good.
And I could
Yeah,
see on my phone like images coming in, but I couldn't look at them because I was driving. So I was like, oh, this is bad. This is bad. But listening to Talk Sport, um, but you have that moment of um, just it's not fair. Like there's a difference between feeling unlucky and feeling you've missed out, and then that just it's not fair, And that was the feeling that I had at about 1 o'clock because it's like all of you're kind of I've gone in on Tottenham. I've taken a hit last week, so I've actually got the punishment last week of doing it, thinking right, Leeds, Burnley, Brentford, Norwich, and this was the week where the players that you were taking out had good fixtures. So Vardy had a good fixture today, and it was like I need Kane to offset whatever Vardy does today. And then as soon as you knew that wasn't in, you knew what was coming from Vardy. It was just inevitable.
yeah.
And it just feels like, yeah, when you make decisions and your players don't get the points, or you put the wrong person on the bench and in and out and all that sort of stuff, captain and all those things, you go. Sometimes you're just unlucky, and you just have to go. I was just unlucky today. And sometimes you go, well, the decision wasn't great, and all therefore, and after a little while, you can sort of calm down a bit. But when it's like it's just something that's out your
There's no,
hands,
you don't know whether the decision was right or wrong. That's the thing, because you have no control over it whatsoever. So you can't
no,
you
it's
can't control the fact that Sean Dyche fancied just telling them not to switch on the undersaw heating last night and stuff like
we're
that.
starting that rumor. We're starting that rumor. We're starting the rumor that they sabotaged the game because
Yeah.
Westwood and
Okay.
Tarko were out. Yeah.
Exactly. So game week wise, how did you finish up?
It finished all right in the end. It finished all right. I did Foden to Jota, so that just it was too good a move not to do with the potential Foden issues. And again, thank
I
God
didn't
I
even
did.
realise you'd done that, to be honest, because when I said Foden wasn't playing, I thought you still had him.
No, I did Foden to Jota, thinking as well that I didn't really like my bench and didn't fancy it, and um, yeah, it would have just been much worse if I hadn't, because I'd have got Livermore off the bench, and then got full naught points. So that was a big move. But the other thing was I was trying to just give enough funds to potentially bring Alonso in for this midweek game. So I ended up with 60 points when I had two players not play today that were supposed to play. Just not upset with it. Liverpool effectively have given me 35 of those points. Tony the 9-pointer, and then Ramsdale and type things. But it's a weird one in it because just the template, like it almost feels hard to not have a template in the high 80s. So I had two players in my starting 11 that had a combined ownership of less than 2%. Yet my template rating was still like 87, whatever. So it's still a template team. Um, it's a weird one. It's a weird one at the moment. It just
Is
feels
that what
like,
Emerson and Townsend?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. The template's strong, but it's not necessarily the same 11 everyone's got, isn't it? We've all got basically at least 9 out of about 15 players, and then it's maybe a couple of others type thing. What about you?
Well, my week was basically your week in a lot of ways because I got points from all the same places. I
Mm.
didn't have Ramsdale. I had Mendy, but I had I did have Foden, and then I had Ben White come off the bench. So
Lovely.
I got defensive points from Arsenal, and that was it. So it was about 10:45. I was umming and ahhing over the last transfer and whether I was going to make a transfer for a hit. And I'd made the Trent and Keenan Davis from Rudiger and who else? Antonio.
Yeah.
I did that last Saturday, like after the Liverpool Arsenal game, and I was looking at it yesterday morning, thinking I'm gonna miss out on Jota here. And then because I sent it in the chat, in the Twitter chat that we've got, and you said, well, you know, is Sarr really? Because Sarr was the guy I was looking at. Is Sarr really a doubt, or is he just going to play? I was like, no, he's out. Actually, he's out. That's a good thing because he was yellow when I sent the thing, but he was actually red when I went back into the game. So I just thought, well, yeah, it was Sarr to Jota, and obviously that worked about as dreamily as it could have done, to be honest. You know, so and I was unlucky with Jesus, I guess. Everyone else, and Bumo's crap, but Jesus with fucking honestly. Cleared off the line, Ben Johnson, and then the most ridiculous Gundogan assist. I fucking hate him, honestly. Last season,
Oh, he's feisty early on tonight.
last season, honestly, last season was such a nightmare, and not having Gundogan for a while, and then for him to not get his toe out the way for that little touch.
If it helps, I don't know if you realise, but Jesus was directly behind Gundogan when Gundogan scored as well. So, you know, Gundogan wasn't just getting into the number 9 position then.
Mate, I couldn't see anything on the screen when he scored.
I had to watch about 4 replays to work out actually how the goal went in. But, you know.
Yeah.
But you had some good surgery in your team this week. You had some good surgery. You made 3 moves. You know, is tell you what you are.
It's funny because, I mean, I felt like... it was just something you said about, you know, all the planning in the world, and I made a lot of plans last season and got burnt for different reasons, but mainly around COVID and suspensions and stuff like that, around the blank and double game week, and everything kind of screwed up. So I get the pain of what happened with I mean, I've got no Burnley, no Tottenham, so I wasn't directly impacted this week, but I do know that pain from last year. Just give me a second. I'm going to open a beer because last time I opened the beer just before we started recording. It went absolutely everywhere, so I'm going to mute and hopefully it doesn't go everywhere.
Right, what can I say about you? So I can moan that you got more bench points again. But the odd, what I would say, so if you think about a Jota one, like if Foden and Sarr hadn't got injured, you probably don't have Jota in your team this week. You know, but I feel like that was a good move to take a minus 4-4. It was a positive move in the fact that you knew you didn't really fancy Sarr, and you knew there was a potential issue with Foden, so you were proactive.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was too reactive to the fact that Liverpool were the best strike force in the country, and not having Trent earlier on was criminal, really. And Jota just felt like the right time. Jota just felt like if you're gonna get him now, because he's still not that highly owned, and he was still only like 40% owned at my rank, so he's still pretty low, and so I got a lot of points from him, so that really, really helped. Even though I did get and I got a small red arrow. No, we're not. But it depends on, you know, next few weeks are going to be really, really tough because there's going to be a lot of rotation around, and that's going to be around the teams where all of our big hitters are because of where they play and because of the teams they play in and the amount of games that they play. So, you know, I'm pretty sure that Cancelo will get a rest at some point. I'm pretty sure that James will get a rest at some point. Jota probably will get a rest at some point. And that was another reasoning why I made the decision I did, because I had Sarr and obviously Livramento playing up at Liverpool was a problem, and then I've got Keenan Davis. So I've only got 14 or 13 outfielders. And so I only had 12. And I was like, well, I just need more, really. I just need more cover. And as you say, Foden was a doubt. So it was just like, yeah, I want to keep Foden for now. But yeah, I'll have to wait and see on whether there's any information about him for midweek, because I'm trying to be... The thing is, I've got other fires as well. If I look at like Bumo is a pain. Jesus is fine, actually. But he's just still expensive. Jimenez is a week away from a transfer, really. But it's just something I've got to think about in the future. And even Rafinha, to be honest. In a few weeks, he becomes tough.
We've all got juggernauts, I think, in the next few weeks. And it's easy to look at the fires. But I definitely think... So we had a couple of questions around, do you need a full playing bench at the moment? We've got all these games coming up. We've now got snow. We've got a new COVID variant. And we've got just winter in general. Super cold. We spread that last week. Not really materialised yet, but
no,
we're getting there. And it does put me off having the 4.5 striker. So we know that strikers are doing very little at the moment to support us. I mean, if you own Vardy and King and Dennis and those type of players at the moment, you probably don't feel that way this week. But in general, even Tony this week chips in, but in general, strikers have underperformed and kind of sways you a bit more to the only having 2 strikers. But that non-playing third bench means that you can't afford rotation risks as much. So I know, players like Jimenez comes into worse run of form. Bumo isn't really doing it. But these guys do play almost, they play every game, really. And Rafinha, for example, it worries us. But it worries us because he's the only player in their team, basically, that's any good. Sorry, Leeds fans, but
and Bamford's coming back now. Actually, so he's back in training and stuff. So I think that's a positive move. And I said that a few weeks ago. I think that's a positive move, actually, for Rafinha from a burden point of view, because he's not going to be relied upon so much. I think it might take a few weeks for Bamford to get back up and running. I mean, I'm almost certain it will. But his movements, if he still hasn't lost that movement or just the intelligence that he had, then he should be all right.
Yeah, I see him coming off the bench before he starts. I feel like he won't just come in and play. But I do think we will get injuries in our team. I just picked up Norman, the Norwich midfielder, got injured on the weekend, got taken off with pelvic injury or something like that. And if that's 2 weeks, someone that would have been third on my bench every week anyway, but suddenly it's okay. And now I only got 2 outfield playing options. So that's I've suddenly got that. If I had a 4.5 like that and I have a non-playing player as well, then suddenly you can get the bare bones really quickly. So I definitely don't think if it's possible, we should be looking to make ourselves into an inflexible position. But I think you should also look at your team and think, who is my biggest risk here? The issue is a lot of the players that are rotation risks also have great upsides, and that's the nature of the game, is that people are effectively priced based on the nailedness to an extent. If Jota and Salah played the same minutes all season, it wouldn't be half the price of him, would he? He wouldn't be 7 million to 12 million. It wouldn't. That's not where they'd be. You're paying, a discounted price for a reason. Is that they are, and that's where the value is in loads of those players. So you shouldn't ignore them either. You just got to try and make your own mind up when you're looking at your squad of how risky can I be here and what is my issue. So I think if you've got lots of nailed players, then having two playing options on the bench is okay. I feel like if you haven't, then you've got lots of risks in your team. Getting free is more of a priority. So,
yep, that's making me think about my team.
Snow, can you? You can't plan for snow. You can't plan for COVID. And those things will happen. I had triple Villa when they played Villa Newcastle last season, and that went off. I had Son and Kane against Fulham when it got called off because of COVID, a few hours before. Those things all happened last season. I did all right. Today I had 2 out and I did all right. And the reason I did all right is because I had some other very good players. So, and I concentrated my transfer on the player that I thought had the most upside. So if you look at my squad, the obvious transfer that I should have got rid of this week was Townsend, because I hate him as an option in my team. Just the same way everyone's going to look at Bumo this week and think, yeah, he's the one. But I was my options for this week for Townsend were Gallagher or Smith Rowe. And although they had good fixtures, I was they're
they're
still
still cheap. They're still cheap players, so
yeah.
you still limit the expectations that you have of them, and you don't expect them to go out and to bomb 6, 7, 8, 9 points. And I think 8, 9 points is kind of the benchmark if you want to upgrade from a 2
Yeah.
for 1 week. And obviously Jota had that, favourable fixture and best attack in the league, and it was just there, wasn't it? It was an easy decision.
So that's focus. I still think everyone should still focus on what's the best transfer. So I'm probably going to bring Alonso in tomorrow night, but of course he's a risk. Of course he's a risk when they've got 3 games in a week, and he got taken off tonight. But what if he plays?
I think him coming off this week was a positive.
Yeah.
At this point, it's a massive positive, because I think Tuchel realises that he's out of what he's got in his defence. I would be more concerned on the right hand side. I'd be more concerned about James than I would be about Alonso. Alonso hasn't played in 3 months. He's not tired, right? He can play 3 games in a week. Fine, he's a little bit older, but just taking him 10 minutes off before the end of the game, 5, 10, 15 minutes off before the end of the game, I think that's a positive sign that we'll see him again in midweek. And I'm nervous about not owning him, but I think you're more likely going to see something like James get rested, to be honest.
Just keep chasing points. That's all we can do, innit? Just keep chasing points. Like, pick the players that you think are going to get the most points regularly. and if it doesn't work, then hey.
Tough concept, that.
Yeah, it is.
So, I think that, well, I was just going to say, just because that was what Murch's question was on Jota specifically. So, whilst we can talk about Jota like during the game, I think his question was like, do we think he'll play 3 games in 8 days when Firmino's likely back? I think, yeah, probably he will. I think there's enough.
He will play him. It's whether he plays
90.
And he doesn't play 90 anyway. So no. Even without Firmino, he only plays 70. So think of it more the other way around. Often he only plays between 60 and 70. And in those other games when he's not starting, he's going to play 25 to 30. But he plays the first 60 to 70 when it's often cagey, when it's against completely fresh legs with good plans, hopefully. Not 3-4-3, Ralph. But I'll let you tell us about that, because you messaged me early on that one. But he'll be playing tired legs for those 25 to 30. I'm happy to have him any week, 25 to 30 or 65 to 70. That's why he's 7 million and not 12.
Yeah, so, can't argue with that.
There's no point now we've brought him in, unless he gets injured. There's no point taking him out, because Salah will have some rotation, Mane will have some rotation. So when Firmino comes back, it's not necessarily Jota drops out. It's like, how do we keep all of them fresh? How do we keep fixing that answer? And there will be times when he does it sometimes. He'll play all 4. And then before you know it, it's game week 20 and it's African Nations.
Yeah.
And he's
the front man.
How much do you reckon he's going to go up in price in African Nations? Or what do you think his effective ownership will be? It's going to be over 100% every week, isn't it?
Well, I don't think it'll be over 100%, because I think you've got to factor. No, because I think you've got to factor in that I don't think Liverpool's attack will be as potent without Salah and Mane there. And but I think he'll be owned by close to 100% of the top 10k. I think he'll have to be, because they're still going to be they probably won't be the best attack during that period, but they're still a really good attack. I don't know. Maybe he's even more important.
But you ain't going to take the risk of not owning him.
Oh, Christ, no. Exactly.
Nobody's not. So
no.
I just don't think you can ignore him. I just think you've got to get him in, if anyone hasn't.
So before we do games, you want to go games next?
Desperate.
Okay, cool. So before we do games, haven't introduced the pod at all. So make sure you follow us both on Twitter. I am and the podcast is at Above Average FPL. Baker is at Baker FPL 343. The podcast is available on Apple, Spotify. It's on YouTube. The YouTube channel is Above Average FPL. The video will be on there, so make sure you give us a like, subscribe. You'll get your latest video, latest podcast directly to whatever device you listen and /watch on. And we also put a tweet out to let you know that it's there. The YouTube video takes a bit longer to upload overnight, so you'll normally get the podcast on the Sunday evening, and then the video will be there for you normally like 3 a.m. on Monday. So for guys in the UK, when you wake up in the morning, for guys over in, Monday morning, basically.
Monday morning.
Leave us a review, leave some comments on the YouTube videos. We're working to try and continually improve our content. If you do that sort of stuff, it really helps with all the algorithms and all that jazz, which is great. And we're almost there with a redesign of the logo. This is going to look a little bit different on YouTube as well, so hopefully that pleases everyone. I think it's going to please us. I think we'll be happy when it's all done.
Are we going to get any Christmas merch?
Are we going to get Christmas?
Like mugs, T-shirts?
We haven't discussed this. What do you mean? What do you mean? Do you mean like we're going to buy stuff for each other, or are we going to give stuff away?
Just for branding up. Like maybe we're going to start a clothing line of above average mugs.
We could do. Wow. We could do. We'd probably need somebody to partner with, somebody who's good at merchandise.
Do we know someone? If anyone listening to this is in merchandise, get in touch. What's that glass you're showing there on the YouTube?
It's a nice glass. It's don't drink an FPL. It never ends well. Can't remember where I got it from though.
No. Okay.
No. Okay. Cool. Right. Games.
Start with the Arsenal, shall we? As they played this week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what to say about it. Is Newcastle just rubbish?
Do you think that, right, it feels like a bit school ground stuff, but do you feel like Arsenal's fullbacks have sort of watched us, watched some FPL content, watched everyone talking about wing-backs last week? Like, Arsenal fullbacks hadn't had a single attacking return all season. Not one. And they both get one, and Tommy Asa was flying into the box, like almost got the end of a shot, and all sorts of stuff. Do you reckon it's spreading this now that the fullbacks and some of these other clubs are doing so well that like all of them are having a go?
I don't think you're far wrong with that. I mean, it would be stupid of a manager to observe what's going on in other clubs like Liverpool with their fullbacks who attack quite differently to Chelsea and their wing-backs. And try and take some sort of amalgamation of that and see what works best within their squad. Because, as you say, Tottenham have started doing that already. Chelsea do it already. Liverpool attack the same, very differently in a 4 rather than a 3 or a 3-5 or whatever. So yeah, I think it is an element of that. I definitely think it's an element
basic
of that.
that they all come into training Monday and go, "Ooh, did you see what they did? We haven't got that."
But that's it. That's just. I guess that's the evolution of a style that works, and clearly that's something that's right now in the game in the Premier League is very effective, and it was for them at the weekend as well. So, I mean, it's interesting. Tavares obviously keeping Tierney out the side still as well, and Tierney's back fit.
Yeah.
So which is huge.
Just Newcastle are in. It's bad, isn't it?
They're just terrible. They're just really, really bad.
Because this is their better fixture period before it actually gets real bad around Christmas time.
Yeah, they would have needed. I think they would have needed probably 7 points from these 4 games. I think as a minimum, and I think if they get 6 now, I'll be quite surprised. Obviously, they've lost the first 2 out of them.
Home to Norwich, home to Burnley, next 2 games.
They've got to win them both. They have to win them both. But I didn't really see much apart from. I mean, yeah, Shelby had a couple of pot shots. Really good save from Ramsdale. So I mean, I think they're definitely. I think they're definitely trying to do more with the ball. Definitely, I think they're definitely trying to do more. But it's just whether they can execute, and I don't know whether they're going to have time. It's going to be a really. I mean, just generally speaking on Newcastle's front, I think it's going to be a really, really strange few months. How Eddie Howe's got to try and drive a balance between playing good football and just getting results, and then getting that alongside of the club also needs to work hard to get players in that will make a difference from January, and they have to be really, really good signings. And I'm not saying I'm not saying they have to go and buy the best players in the world, but they have to get some. They have to identify 2 or 3 weak spots and just plug them. They just need to plug the gap immediately and just turn it around. Because otherwise, they're going to find themselves end of January. They'll find themselves way off and with no chance to come back. I mean, we're talking about Norwich being like the worst team ever, and they always are when they come up. And Newcastle 3 points off them, aren't they? 3 points.
Yeah, and looking at the way each of them played this weekend, it's very difficult to argue that Newcastle even, should do them. But yeah, if they don't win these, this is a massive week for them. A huge, huge, huge week. And I guess from an FPL perspective, if you've got Wilson, then you've got Wilson. So hope for the best next 2 games.
Yeah.
Everybody else, don't go near. Just don't go near now. It's too late now because you've got these 2. Then it's away Leicester, Liverpool City. Just no chance. Arsenal, I think it's still just good to have defensive cover, whether it be Ramsdale, whether it be White. They are good at defending.
I think Ben White feels boring. It's not a transfer you want to make, but I think it's one that you can't really. You can't move away from him, or it's just a difficult transfer to make unless you've got nothing else to do.
Yeah, Tomiyasu is the easy one if you're going to get a defender from him because he's got that right side completely sewn up. Yeah. Whereas Torres, you still got
Tierney at the back.
Yeah. And he considerably outdid him on the bonus because he does well. He's a bit like real budget Reece James in a sense that the busyness though in his defensive play and the way that he does actually make a lot of decent, very safe passes means that he'll do okay on the bonus and be okay. But he's never going to be anywhere near the same going forward as Reece James, But he, he's a solid player if you needed a cheap 4.5. But yeah,
Palace Villa.
Villa.
I didn't really see any of this. To be honest. I
think the thing with Villa, so Villa have won 2 games out of 2, obviously under Gerrard.
Yeah.
But they had 37% possession in both games. Exactly the same, 37-37. We spoke last week and said about they ended up going 4-3-3, and we mentioned that Watkins, he called him the number 9, and we said, wonder what that means for Ings. Ings was an unused substitute, didn't come on. And they went 4-3-3 for this game.
Which is, but Watkins' XG yesterday was 0. Like, you just had no chances at all.
Yeah,
I don't think that won't cut it. That won't cut it with Gerrard for very long.
No. But what they did do, and what will cut it with Watkins, is he used the words in his interview that he really enjoyed how it was the aggressiveness is what he said, but it was like that they were quite, I would say, calm in their aggression, but they basically didn't overpress, but made sure that there was no opportunities to create either, in the way that they defend. Rangers had a very good defensive record, but then you just thought it was because they're up in Scotland. But I do feel there's maybe that about him, that he wants that to be quite solid. We don't offer easy balls. We don't offer easy chances. And Watkins, is a really winning runner as a forward. He'll run and provide and create issues for the defensive midfielders that are trying to spend too much time on the ball. And you just feel like that's something he'll like. As an actual whole FPL world, I'm like, don't really like that. I don't really like betting on teams when they're only going to have around 35% possession when they win. Because you always feel like it's going to always be a little snatch and grab. And then you also feel like if a team's getting consistently like 60% possession against you, there's always a chance you concede. So they did concede at the end. And that's a little bit like it's just too much pressure. And eventually it takes its toll. Palace, it's the same issues we've talked about regularly, is that they just keep changing. Those front 3. So Elise comes in this time. Eze came off the bench, so he's now actually in a shirt on the pitch. I do think that Leeds, who Palace have got next, is a very interesting one for how they play, because I thought the fullbacks in Leeds were the opportunities where you could get to them. Lamptey caused a load of troubles for them. So I feel like Palace, your Gallagher, for example, who played down the, sort of plays down the right of the midfield three, and wouldn't surprise me if Zaha went over there as well. So I feel like they could have some good times against Leeds in this midweek, but I don't think I'd rush to them at the moment.
No.
Don't think I'd rush to them. And the one thing is we have to try and get it in our brains to look at is who every week is playing Palace and takes set plays or scores headers. They've conceded 22 chances from headers this season. Next worst is 11. So they're conceding double the amount of chances from headers that everybody else is. They've conceded 10 goals now from set plays. That's a goal a game week from set plays, virtually.
I'm just looking at who they've got coming up with Leeds United. I don't think either of those two teams will cause them any problems from set plays.
Those taking them. I think about that game.
But they're taking them. But they don't score them. Like United don't score from set plays. Leeds don't score from set plays.
What was that game last season? I think it was the first of the double game week, wasn't it? Where Leeds, Rafinha kept putting on Liam Cooper's head from about 4 yards out, and he just kept spooning him over the bar. And he ended up with top bonus because he just kept creating so many big chances. Despite the fact that he didn't actually.
Didn't they lose 1-0 or something?
Yeah. And he still
lost 1-0, got top bonus, and a 1-0 loss. Probably got booked as well, something stupid like that.
It was because he just created like 6 big chances that they all spurned. But it did make me think, we'll wait and see that. Rafinha cross, Liam Cooper goal this week. If Bamford's playing, I fancy it.
Well, there's Everton coming up. Everton will be notoriously good at set plays.
Just need DC on the pitch to be able to happen, don't it? You don't fancy Rondon as much.
Southampton.
You're not going to bring Rondon in. Yeah.
Ward-Prowse, Bednarek. Anyway.
Yeah, but we just need to just keep that in our brain all the time, because last season Palace conceded the most chances from set pieces, and I thought because they've changed both centre backs and because they changed manager, that stat was void, but it's not void.
It's not exactly
something about that club that just concedes chances. Maybe it's the ground. Maybe there's something in it. I don't know what it is, but you completely change your team, and you're still the worst conceding chances from set plays and conceding not just chances, it's goals. 10 goals. Monstrous.
Yeah. Talking of monsters.
Absolute monsters, aren't they?
Liverpool.
Before the game started, tell me what you messaged me.
So before the game started, the lineup came out, and I was like, Brozier, Armstrong, Adams. I was like, what is Ralph thinking? He's gone to Anfield and gone to play 3-4-3, and I just knew it was just going to be an absolute disaster. I mean, we talked last week about who did Chelsea play? Leicester. And we talked about Leicester trying to go toe to toe with Chelsea and saying that was probably a mistake. At home, better team against a less potent attack, in theory. So then you go away to the most potent attack in the league than has been, and they've scored more than 2 goals in the last 17 league games, which, oh my God, when I heard that stat, was just fucking unreal. They scored they've scored 2 or more goals in their last 17 Premier League games. That's just ridiculous. And he went 3-4-3 against them. I was like, what the hell?
Just ridiculous.
So torn apart within 2 minutes. I mean, we don't really need to talk through the goals or anything like that. Jota's combined yardage of his goals was about 5, but he's just in the right place at the right time. He was, but the only thing that I am getting from this is that Salah is you can take him on. Trent has outscored him in the last 3 games.
You can take him on, but it's who you take him on with. So the
problem with someone like Trent, though, is that every time Trent has a good fixture, Salah has a good fixture. So it's obviously
that's the problem. And the problem is would you? It's even just your mental health, mate, in this world, right? Would you? We had Jota, Van Dijk. We had Jota, Trent, and Salah. We enjoyed ourselves on the weekend. We enjoyed it. Me and you enjoyed watching Ralph just do stupid things. But put it the other way around, and 199% owned Salah wasn't your captain, and you had 100 and you instead you had the 100% owned Trent as your captain. You just don't need it. At the moment, I just don't need it in my life, and not for 3 points. Is not for 3 points. I just don't need it, and yeah,
that's fair.
Just, and the problem is that they're just so potent, and it's going to be itching at Salah that he hasn't been the one that's had advantage of it. It's going to be itching at him, and you almost need him to scratch that itch. I think almost to go against him in a strange way, because all the time he's not smashing it, I'm like, he's about to smash it. It's going to come. But they're just so good going forward. I mean, Jota, people sometimes aren't that keen on Jota because they would say he's not the best finisher. Like, he misses big chances. Like, that is a massive, that was a 7-point swinger, that goal at the end, because he doesn't get the goal, but he also would have got top bonus. And then he was already on top bonus, but he misses a big chance, which is a negative for him. But Robertson created that chance, so it was a positive for Robertson. So he suddenly went bottom of the three for bonus, despite the fact that he scored 2 goals. But I just want people that are going to be getting in those positions. You look at Jimenez and you look at the positions he takes up. I watched Tony today, and he does loads of work 30 yards out. Like, he's never getting on the yard. He's never tapping one in from 6 yards because he's never going to be the man on the break. Like, he wasn't the furthest man forward. Antonio is doing all the work up top for everybody, in those games. And you're like, I've got all these workers. This guy just is a weapon.
He just sits in the box and
just an
tucks it away.
Weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the most potent attack there is. And
because they all work around him. They all just work around him. And they move the ball so quickly around him. He doesn't actually need to move that much. He just needs to make sure that he's got space. And if he's got space, chances are they'll find him. So yeah,
and I reckon old Robertson watched Match of the Day with old Tavare and Tomiyasu last week, because it's the same thing. It's like, hold on, no one's talking about me. Like, Robbo's like, no one's talking about me. It's now.
He had a proper game, didn't he?
He had a proper game.
Yeah,
absolute proper game. But it doesn't matter if he has a proper game, because all any of us want is Trent, Jota, Salah.
Yeah.
Can't have 4 of them, just get them through.
Yeah, so we've got
Ralph.
2-0. Ralph, honestly.
Do you know, did you see he even said it? He even said it after the game.
They changed at half time. Yeah, but he said it at the end of the game. He said, we set up this way, and actually it was probably a mistake. Like, no shit. Like, I knew that 5 minutes after your lineup, mate. Like, it was just a bad move.
So
it's weird that he's just got it in him, isn't he? He's just got it in him to throw those in. It's no coincidence he's lost, because that's a funny thing. I was, as soon as that happened, I was thinking, Christ, this is going to be another 9-0 or something like that. Could it? And that would have been almost to the day, like 3 years in a row, which would have been mad.
What man he is.
We're a bit slow getting through these, so we don't want to give anyone like an hour and 40-minute pod. So
yeah,
so 0-0.
Well, mate, the next 2 are 0-0s. Yeah, and then we've got a Burnley, Tottenham, which didn't happen. So then we can move quickly through these.
So I think just about Norwich, I think to hold to they're clearly much better organised. They're clearly much better organised and playing better football. They're still not. Well, I mean, they had an XG of 1.4, so they created some chances. In fact, to be honest, Lucas Rupp should have scored, and Pookie should have had definitely one in the second half. The first half was probably just a bit slow to get it out of his feet, but the second half, that one was a great ball through and a great run. They're showing some promising signs, but they're just not at a level that you'd really want to consider still.
They're working hard though. They're working hard. Deanson's doing a good job. He's making it suddenly a lot harder to think, right, I've got to transfer someone in because they've got Norwich. You know, we're not quite thinking that maybe as much. Wolves are an issue. You know, I saw someone celebrating the 10 points of Sarr, and but I also saw their team also had Jimenez, and I was like, if you'd have said at the start of the game that you only got 12 points from Jimenez and Sarr, you'd have been fuming. You know, that's not what you expected for Norwich.
No.
And that's the fact is that when your
he was busy as well.
When your keeper against Norwich is getting the top bonus, that's not good as a team for a team that you want really. But pluckily, he got himself a point. Also, pluckily got themselves a point was Leeds. I just feel as we talked about it last week is about Brighton is we looked at their team and were like, not really picking the players to score the goals, really. Like you're making it quite difficult to score.
Well, he said that, and then he played his striker this week, and he had a miss that was almost as bad as Aubameyang's, which I noticed that we didn't talk about just because it was beyond funny. But
beyond funny. Yeah, booing him. Got a bit of,
bizarre.
They got a bit of booze.
Bizarre.
The thing is, though,
if they'd have lost, I'd have got it.
It's stupid, but fans just, I don't care now. Like, do you think Tottenham fans are unhappy that they got Conte? They still booed at half time and then cheered at the end. You know, it's just football fans are not the brightest. It's just the way it is.
As well, I don't know. Just we'll get to today's games anyway. But you know, obviously last week when Ollie and the United guys went over to their fans at the Watford game, and basically everyone was giving them middle fingers and stuff. Apparently, that happened to Everton fans today. Everton, as well as they went over there. They went over there and they got a bunch of abuse for losing away at Brentford.
Do you feel like it's like the bubble's gone a little bit? I think there's probably something in it that when we start the season, we talked a lot about home crowd advantage. Suddenly was a big thing, but I felt like, you know, even when you went to the game, is that you felt quite privileged that you were at a game. You felt like you were there. When I went to the Tottenham Leeds last week, like nobody's wearing masks. Like it didn't fit. Like we're booing at half time. Didn't feel like home crowd advantage was a thing anymore. But I do think there's a little bit that it's kind of like waned off this home crowd advantage of, you know, back at the football, and suddenly it's like misery.
Yeah.
Very quick to it, but mate, Potter's done a ridiculous job there, and they were a very good team, and Leeds were not a very good team.
No, and we've said for a while that, you know, they are a striker away from. You know, they were there last year, right? Exactly the same story. Very high XG, just couldn't score. Now we thought at the start of the season they'd resolved that, but actually they're kind of reverting back to sort of a normality. So they still do need that striker to finish those chances. If they get them, then they could be a really, really good team, and they're 8th right at the moment. It's like they're not having a bad season. They've obviously started well, so. They really do just need to go and buy a striker, though. They need to go and buy a proper striker to come and finish the chances.
Well, they were linked with Tammy Abraham in the summer, and I mean, he would have missed a lot of chances too, but he would still be just a big step up on what they've got. And they missed Welbeck a little bit where he got injured. But if you're missing Danny Welbeck, yes, you need to buy strikers. Let's move on from them. Brentford Everton's. It's partially interesting, that one, in the fact that this game week you've got Salah's your obviously overwhelming favourite. I was kind of hoping to see something from Kane that made me think maybe I could take it on playing against Brentford. And I don't see I haven't seen anything from Kane, obviously, because he's not played today.
Yeah.
But it's more that Everton just show me nothing that says that they've got I don't see that they can take Liverpool on in this way because, Klopp made comments about the game this week and he basically said Everton just try to kick them off the park in the Merseyside derby. That's all they try and do and get in their face and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
If this Everton team, try and get in the face of Liverpool, that'd be 6-7 now.
Yeah, they'll just move it too fast.
They just move it too fast.
They'll just move it too quickly. They won't be able to touch them.
They won't. And that's kind of, it's quite a dull game. But when I'm watching it, I'm like, Ivan Toney is not an enjoyable own. Just from the position he takes up. He's a very good penalty take. But you're literally... Who do you think will take more penalties this season? Jorginho or Toney?
Jorginho.
He's cheaper than Toney.
Yeah.
So, if you want to have someone for being a penalty taker, then just get Jorginho. I'm not maxed out on Chelsea. You maxed out on Chelsea? No.
No, I'm not.
If you just want a penalty taker, then might as well do that, really. Yes, he's very good at a penalty, but he also never gets in the box. So
yeah,
I don't like it. I'd rather have one.
Do we know whether that's changed from last season? Was it because I'm sure when we spoke at the start of the season, one of the things about Toney was that he doesn't score goals from outside the box. Like none of his goals were from outside the box last season, and he scored something like 33 goals.
I just think they have to work harder.
I don't understand why that's changed.
I just think it's because it's a better league, and natural progression. I remember seeing something at the start of the season that showed something like, on average, teams have a 40% regression moving from the Championship to the Premiership in goals, and you're like, well, that's what it looks like. And then then, when everyone said he scored like 28 goals or whatever he scored, they play 46 games. Do you know what I mean? And some of them are not as good as the others, and I'm sure there will be times when he does well, but I don't look at it thinking he's going to do that well. But I don't feel him that much differently if I look at, say, Jimenez, for example. I'm not massively feeling that way differently about Antonio at the moment. You just don't feel like they're the exciting players at the moment to have. But he will play every game. He's so important to them. That dropping deep is actually really important. In his all-round game is really important. And so it's going to take a really big fire for me to not to sell Ivan Toney at the moment.
Their fixtures are still okay, right?
Yeah, they're okay.
Tottenham, Leeds, Watford, a bounced Man United probably, and then Southampton. Yeah, they're still okay. I mean, I'm just flicking through his heat maps from last season, and there's a lot more in the box, but that's the kind of position he takes up. Is that space just to kind of, outside the box, 10-15 yards, just to the right hand side.
He's a good player. Yeah, he's a good all-round player.
But that doesn't necessarily. So then, does that necessarily? I guess it's only really his goals from last season that is making people think that he's a great fantasy asset. Whereas, as you say, the quality's slightly different. He's not playing teams that potentially could be in League One anymore.
Yeah, I'm likely.
The food chain.
And it was a bit of Spurs bias, but I'm likely to bench him midweek. I'm likely to bench him. And if I had Boomer, I'd definitely bench him. Fun ones though, and they're making it very difficult to bench. And these next two games will really be interesting. Is the Watford guys, King and Dennis. They are cheap. In the last 6 game weeks, they've between them scored 71 points.
Oh, Jesus, really?
Dennis has got, Dennis has got 40 points in the last 6 game weeks. King's got 31 points in the last 6 game weeks. If you look at
he's now on pens.
And that was a great pen, and he's now on pens. If you look at any of the expected data, King looks better.
Yeah.
He expected would have got 6 goal involvements in the last 6 game weeks and's got 5. Expected for Dennis is 3 goal involvements and's got 8. So he's outperforming it. But you see that finish today, mate. That was quality.
Yeah.
And
again,
quality,
could hardly see it, but yeah.
quality players overperform their XG. So therefore, it's yeah. In that sense, I'm like, maybe he's just good. Maybe he's just good. But 5.3 and 5.6 million, I would side on King mainly because Dennis probably has a AFCON. That looks almost certain that he will miss 20 to 23 in the game weeks. But I wouldn't be against the way that they're playing at the moment. I would not be against someone going to them even over these next 2 weeks, despite the fact that they've got City and Chelsea. I don't think, because they're cheap. So even if you needed to bench them, you could on them. But Watford, in their last 5 game weeks, the expected goals have been 22.5. So combined for those and against them. So basically 4.5 goals a game, that is, that they're expected is averaging. Every game is mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are a fun team to look at the moment and to watch what they're doing.
Just makes me feel. Yeah, it makes me feel very. Yeah. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means for Chelsea midweek though. I mean, I don't know whether we haven't moved on to Chelsea yet. We'll do that. We'll do that when we come to Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to shoot out teams and stuff, but don't forget that when they played Liverpool just tore them apart, and because they just keep trying it, Liverpool beat them 5-0. It does happen, but then they've got it in them for, like the 5-2 at Everton, the 4-1 United, 4-2 loss again today. Those big games happen with them. There could be some fun in that game in midweek at home, and it feels like an Alonso game. Definitely feels like an Alonso game. But Josh King and Dennis, fantastic value. Can't argue at the moment way they're doing.
So I'm just having a look at this. There's only two sides that have had more goals in their games than Watford.
And you get through these two, and then it's
3.
Away to Brentford, away to Burnley, home to Palace.
Yeah, and Wolves then after that. So still,
like, if you were coming off, we mentioned it, but Jimenez after this week has got worse fixtures. I love those two, and I think I'd go on King. I think that's the safe bet. I think he's currently underperforming a little bit. How well he's been playing. He's now got pens in his locker. Just feels like the safe bet for me. And Dennis just loves a booking. He's 6 bookings, most in the league. He's a madman. He's an absolute madman. I love it. He's fun though, Dennis.
Yeah.
Go on to 6 again today.
Those next 8 after these 2 games, those next 8 for Watford are ridiculous.
But they're at home for these next 2. They've scored some goals. They've just conceded a load. I can see it being 4-2, 4-2, those next 2 games. Loss.
We'll see. Leicester, though?
What I did very much like about Maddison is that first goal. So when we previously talked about Maddison, we always talk about him almost like as not chancing enough, not doing it. And then occasionally there was a little spell last season where he suddenly was the man that was getting past Vardy, and it was like, we're a little bit there. That gamble of
was
going,
it the Villa game?
You might miss this header here, and I'm just going to gamble it, and got forward as the furthest man and took it. I was like, that's interesting.
I'm just wondering I'm just thinking whether it was the Villa game last year, because it was. I remember him doing an interview afterwards, and I think we've mentioned this last year, but if ever James Maddison does an interview after a game, listen to it, because
it's beautiful, isn't it? He is, that was a stunner.
Because he actually talks proper football rather than.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want a comparison of how not to talk to the media, and the poor guy, honestly, but if you listen to Tariq Lamptey's interview on Match of the Day yesterday, when he says the same thing, he's a lovely man, but when he says the same thing like 8 times over and over again, it's just like,
Oh, it's
Just
lovely.
can't do it. But yeah, when Madison talks about the
Yeah,
way they approach different situations in the game,
he's a clever guy, and he played the game clever, but he gambled it. The the good delivery for the two Vardy goals. Well, I would say so. Foster, I don't know why, as it stands, he's out, but I'm assuming it's an injury. The fact that he wasn't on the bench or didn't start. Backman's positioning for both Vardy's goals is just diabolical. Like there's a ball down the channel over the side. He's literally running down about 10 yards left of the goal. How's he going to score? The only way he's going to score is if the keeper decides, I'm going to come running out at you.
yeah,
And he's a very good finisher, and it just lifts it over him. And it's like,
yeah.
why didn't you just stay in? So it's like, why didn't you just stay in your goal? Then you have the corner, and he just stays in his goal. And it's like, he stood on his near post, just there, and he just flicked it
I don't
over.
know.
And you're like,
There's less about the second goal. I think the first goal I agree with. The second goal, it's one of those. It depends on how you mark corners and all this sort of stuff, and whether you have players that anticipate things like flicks on. Because if you look at when Vardy heads that, he's basically outside the 6 yard box. He's almost outside the 6 yard box when he meets that ball.
it's a bad goal to concede, whatever
It
way you
is.
put it. Because Leicester,
Well, I'm not saying that.
Leicester just don't score. They literally are the lowest scorers on set plays every season. You know, despite the fact that they've got quite good takers. That's the thing. You look at Chelsea midweek, and you look at the way if Backman's still playing midweek, Alonso taking corners, James taking corners, those
Yeah,
both of them they'll be pot shotting all day long. I am not comfortable not having those two if they're playing, or at least
yeah.
one of them. Not comfortable not owning Rudiger at the moment. You know what I mean? like scary.
Well, we can come to Rudiger in a minute,
We
but
will do. Yeah, hard. I think it's quite a hard read on Leicester, and I just feel like they're expensive, but I feel like people have got a really big decision now on Vardy. He's just done really well for you and scored 2 goals, and you'll be looking at Kane's ones, and then you'd have been thinking maybe I keep him for a bit and then go to Ronaldo, and then Ronaldo doesn't start today, and now you'd be thinking, oh, maybe you better to just stay on. Those that were patient, it's paid for you. Maybe you just stay patient on Vardy for a while.
I was going to say their fixtures are really good. So
I'd just stay on him, I think.
yeah,
I'd just stay on him. City West Ham, honestly, just so hard to read because I couldn't see the ball.
yeah. Well, just as a point, how much better did the pitch look at the start of the second half?
I can't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. It was just like,
I mean, I didn't. I was listening to it and I heard them say like, oh, there's a 5 minute delay and stuff, and then they came out and they're like, the groundspeople have done an amazing job here, and I was like, oh, that's good. The groundspeople are looking good. And then I watched the highlights of it, and literally when you switch from when you first half to second half, sometimes you need the little caption in the bottom corner that says second half to make sure that you know. It was like watching a completely different game. It's like the pitch was actually there. It was amazing.
I thought West Ham did really well for half an hour. After half an hour, I said to you, is XG basically was like under half for City and about 0.1, whatever it was for West Ham, and then just lift off. You know, they score the goal and then they just boss them. From the second they score that goal, it's just boss time. So good. So good. That's what they are. Mahrez is playing regularly now. You know, that's happening. Sterling is playing regularly.
So obviously, Gundogan with a goal. I'm not giving him that assist. He can fuck off. I'm not giving. I'm not.
You
I'm
are
not.
feisty
I'm
tonight,
not.
mate.
I'm not crediting. I'm not crediting him with that. No chance. What do I do with Jesus though? It's such a tough one.
It's a tough one because Mahrez.
The problem is he's too much money.
Yeah, it's too much money. I'd just rather have fun with Josh King or Dennis, you know, and go, what else can I do and where can I have some fun?
Yeah, City are about to play Watford. I mean, like,
I don't think you should be having Jesus at a 4.5. That's my thoughts. Is striker. I feel like there's some middle ground there that could be quite fun. It's worked, and partially it's worked because strikers have been so bad. So you've done it, and he's been ticking along, and he's doing stuff, and he's so low owned, and it's good fun.
You know what I might do? You know what I might do is I might go early to Burnley, because Burnley have had a rest as well. We talk about Tottenham having a rest. Burnley have had a rest as well. So, and you've had Wolves that have just been completely snuffed out by Norwich. And could go Chris Wood for the next 5, 6, 7, 10 weeks, whatever. There's loads. 1.6 extra.
And then Newcastle. I don't hate Chris Wood.
Yeah, I could have Chris Wood and Jimenez next week.
What?
In what world do you think there's? I tell you what. How about this? If I wasn't talking fantasy league and I said to you, mate, look, I've got this bet on. I've got two matches that I like. What do you think of the Wolves and Burnley game? Both teams to score. You don't fancy it, do you?
I don't. Put it this way, right? No. Explain it, right. Explain it. You're around the water cooler at work, and you're back in that office environment, and someone says to you, "Oh, you do a podcast on fantasy football, don't you?" Yeah. That's what Are you a bit of an expert? Yeah. What's your forward line? Jimenez, Wood, and Keenan Davis.
That's the conversation. It's the conversation that we were having last night on one of the spaces. Was that
it's niche, mate? It's niche.
It's not about necessarily Bar Salah having the best player. You need someone that's effective in FPL. So if it's a 1-1 and Chris Wood and Jimenez score goals, they may pick up 3 and 2 bonus points with them as well.
It could do.
It could be carnage. Oh. Imagine that. So potential.
Chris
anyway,
Wood, get some Christmas wood out of the Christmas wood.
Love it. But other than that, from City West Ham, there's nothing. I don't think.
Gundogan's a good option. If De Bruyne's out, or I don't. The problem is you don't ever really get any answers. Like, does anybody actually know what's going on with De Bruyne?
No.
I've got no idea. If anyone listening to this actually knows what the situation is with Kevin De Bruyne, let us know, and then we can work out if we need to get Gundogan in our team. Because if he's out, then he's a great option, because he gets in the 6-yard box, he toe pokes on assists, he does all those good things, and I like it. And he was very good at Christmas time last season. So I just need to understand the De Bruyne situation. Yeah. But you'd rather have
Cards.
Yeah.
Go on.
You'd rather have Gundogan than you would have. I'd rather have Gundogan than I would have Foden or Jesus at the moment.
Why? You're saying that just because it's me, aren't you?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying this. Getting on him early last season was a good deal, and he looks like he's taking up very similar positions. And you were quite stubborn on that last season.
I was quite stubborn. Cancelo on 4 yellow cards is a bit annoying, isn't it?
It is a bit annoying, and yeah, you do look at it and think, "Oh, what are the games you might want to miss?" Or
I
don't know. He might just want to. I don't think he'll miss a game. What I suspect will happen is they'll get a plan. This will be the old. Do you remember Sergio Ramos doing this in Madrid?
Oh, just getting booked on the bench.
I reckon they'll work it out. I reckon they'll look at it and go, okay, what's the game? So I think they should be planning that they don't play him against Watford next weekend.
Yeah, getting booked against Villa, and
yeah, get your Saturday off and then back in ready for
back in for Wolves at home.
Yeah. I think that's good news. He's on 4 yellows, because I feel like it's almost they don't want rest him, then he plays, then he gets booked, and it's like, well, that was a wasted rest. So I think they'll end up now just keep playing him until he gets his 5th booking.
Yeah.
And they might not do the deliberate one. They might just go, well, that's the plan now. You just keep playing until you get booked.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
okay.
That's the argument we'll go with. And
last
then
one.
the last game, City, Chelsea, United, Chelsea.
It was all one-way traffic, wasn't it?
One-way traffic. I mean, Rudiger is a bona fide option.
Animal.
He's an absolute animal. So greedy, isn't he? Now it's like actual greedy.
What is he doing? What is he doing at the back of the 6-yard box? He's basically taking up a place where Chilwell would have been. Like Chilwell would have been standing there.
Not only that, but James had gone left back at that point, so James was behind him, and you're like,
yeah.
He hit it with his right foot. He left foot.
Yeah.
He hit it with the right foot, and you're like, if that was Reece James, he just pushed that in.
I still haven't seen the one where he hit the bar though. I didn't see that.
Just bangs one. 20 yards out. I'm hitting that.
20. I'm gonna try and find it.
It wasn't that good. He just hit it hard, but he would have saved it if he didn't score. Like it was never going in.
Yeah.
It would have been an absolute howler if it went in. But yeah, I feel like can't read United at the moment. Can't read Chelsea. We need to see how the new guy sets teams up. That's the thing. Like he's got a history of doing 2 up top, even like a 4-2-2-2. He has did a bit of 4-3-3 because the obvious ones that we like is probably those midfielder ones, the Sanchos, the Rashfords, and
yeah. But again, we said that last week. That it's just they're still not. They're just not the right price. They're just not the right price. They're priced based on a preconceived notion that United are going to be up there, and that you're going to want them, and they're going to score lots of points.
Thing is, United's
the fixtures are just so good.
Fixtures are good. If Sancho suddenly starts taking set pieces and is attacking, then you're like, slightly cheaper version of Son. Might not be able to afford Kane and Son, but I might be able to afford Kane and Sancho. And it's like, well, maybe I can afford Kane and Sancho, but I could also afford Ronaldo and Son. And you're like, well, yeah, I'll have that one. But you still got to try and find money for it whilst also trying to push all the money to the back. And it's just tough. Just tough. I just feel like they're wait and see until we get to a main team.
But nothing's changed from Chelsea's point of view.
Still great, aren't they?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting they started with Werner up on his own. I'm surprised. Are they still nursing back Pulisic? Hudson-Odoi started again. Yeah, I don't know. He had a couple of good chances, Hudson-Odoi, didn't he?
He does have good chances.
He's only like 5.3. I mean, I was talking about, because I asked Zoff about this, and I asked the guys in the wire, and they just think he's going to be a rotation risk, which I think is fair enough. But I think at the same time, well, you're probably just better off getting Jorginho. How much is Jorginho?
Like 5.5 million or something.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm thinking. So if you're going to get,
we're not getting that. We're not doing it. We're not doing it.
5 point. Oh no, hold on. 5.8.
We're not doing it.
Yeah, but we're all sitting here with Bumo who just does nothing.
Yeah.
Instead, you're going to get. Why not just get the penalty taker from Chelsea? Like you said earlier. Like it's not a terrible thing to have. We're not tripling up on Chelsea, so just get the guy that's going to tick over with penalties every now and again. I don't know.
I just think we'll always find other places to focus our transfers. I just don't see it. I've spent 5 weeks trying to work out how to get rid of Andros Townsend, and every week something else comes up more important. You just end up leaving it.
He's had 29 points in his last 5 games.
Who has?
Jorginho.
But I mean,
say that. Before that, it was he didn't play against Brentford. Before that, starting from the start of the season, it was like 3-3-2-1, 3-2-1. So, granted, there was Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, City in there as well. But anyway,
we're always going to say we want defenders that are actually playing like midfielders or strikers. We want midfielders that are playing like strikers. We want strikers that are talisman. That's ingrained in us.
There's always a penalty. There's always a penalty bias almost. Like, we want
I'll base it.
Kane over Son because he takes penalties. We want... Don't know who we want for United because they take penalties. We assume that Bruno is still on penalties, but we haven't had a penalty since Bruno missed a penalty. We just know that Jorginho's on penalties.
We do, and he's bloody good at them.
He's good at them.
Bloody good.
And
I can't believe we're going to finish this and talk about Jorginho. Right, we're
Captains.
still Salah captain. We're still Salah captain. I'm probably
Salah captain?
Are you making any moves this week?
I need to, yeah, I need to. Are we Salah captain?
Yeah.
Are there any better fixtures? Probably not. You don't fancy?
I like Alonso. I like Salah. I like Kane. That's what I like.
Yeah.
I was hoping to have enough evidence in my locker to be able to say I'm going Kane this week. I haven't. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. We got anything else to add? Are we done?
Let's get out. We're gonna. Obviously, we've got game week, flying. So Thursday, is that what we're doing?
Thursday we'll do a pod. We'll do a pod on Spaces where we'll do like half an hour's. We'll basically chat while the last half hour of the Tottenham game is being played. I think. Did we say like Tottenham game or the?
It's while the Tottenham game's played, but also it'll be during the second half of United and Arsenal are going.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can come along and do a little watch along with us. You can enjoy it, join the Spaces. We do have a little chat for our pod.
I think there's another one. I think there's another one going on at the same time though. That's the only thing. But
there will be, but there'll be loads, mate. There's loads of space. Space is taking over the world suddenly now. But for anyone who listens to the pod, you know, if you want to get involved with us and have a bit of fun on the night and see what it's like being with us too whilst watching Spurs misery, now's your chance. Get involved. And also, if you want to, you know, if you're a United fan or like us, dislike Arsenal, and want to listen to us cheer United on for the second half of that one whilst talking about the rest of the game week, come join us Thursday night.
Sounds good. So as a final note, Twitter's again at above average FPL. Baker is at Baker FPL 343. The YouTube is above average FPL. New logo, new design is coming up very, very shortly. Mate, have a good luck for the next game week. And I'll speak to you soon.
Good night, mate.
Cheers, mate.